For decades, the standard advice for anyone with a history of heart concerns or high blood pressure over the age of 60 has been simple. Cut out the caffeine. We have been told that coffee is a stimulant that taxes the heart, spikes the pressure, and disrupts the rhythm of a system that is already working hard enough. It is an instruction so common that it feels like common sense. But what if that piece of medical wisdom is not just outdated, but potentially the exact opposite of what your heart actually needs right now? I know how shocking that sounds. We are going to look at why the standard no caffeine rule might be causing you to miss out on one of the most powerful, plant-based cardioprotective tools available in your kitchen. This is not about encouraging you to drink an unlimited amount of espresso or ignoring the symptoms your body gives you. This is about a specific, often misunderstood physiological reaction that happens when the compounds in coffee meet an aging cardiovascular system. If you have been avoiding your morning cup because you are worried about your heart, stay with me. Over the next few minutes, we are going to look at the new data that is changing how cardiologists view coffee consumption after 60. We'll discuss the dosage window, that specific amount of coffee that shifts from being a stimulant to being a therapeutic agent. And we will look at how your genetics play a hidden role in whether coffee helps your heart or hinders it. Most importantly, I'm going to reveal a simple 3-step method for preparing your coffee to ensure you get the heart-healthy benefits while minimizing the jittery, pressure-spiking side effects that have rightfully made you cautious. By the end of this video, you will know exactly whether that morning ritual is a risk or a rescue for your heart. Let's dive into the science. To understand why the old advice about coffee is shifting so drastically, we have to acknowledge where that advice came from. For a long time, clinical studies on coffee focused on the acute, short-term impact of caffeine. Yes, caffeine is a stimulant. Yes, it causes a temporary, mild rise in blood pressure. If you measure someone's pressure 5 minutes after a strong cup of joe, it will almost certainly be higher than it was 10 minutes before. In the context of a busy, stress-filled younger life, that extra jolt was often categorized as a net negative for the cardiovascular system. But the aging heart, your heart, is not the same as a 30-year-old's heart. By 60, the conversation changes from acute stimulation to long-term vascular protection. We are no longer looking at how much your heart rate spikes for an hour after breakfast. We are looking at arterial stiffness, inflammation markers, and the chronic stress your blood vessels face every single day. Before I go deeper into why that distinction is vital, I have a quick favor to ask. I want to know who is in the room with me today. Drop your city, state, or country in the comments below. When I see where people are watching from, it helps me understand the different environmental factors and dietary habits you are navigating in your daily life. I read every one of those comments, and it genuinely helps me tailor this research to the questions you are actually asking. Now stay with me, because what I am about to explain regarding the vascular paradox of coffee is something that confuses most people, even those who consider themselves well-informed about their own health. We've treated coffee as a single, uniform substance. We assume a cup of black coffee is just caffeine, but that is fundamentally wrong. Coffee is a complex botanical extract containing over 1,000 different bioactive compounds, including potent polyphenols like chlorogenic acid. While the caffeine provides that temporary stimulatory effect, it is these secondary compounds, the antioxidants, that are doing the heavy lifting for your arterial health. The question isn't, is coffee good? The question is, how does your body process the total package? And that leads us to a story about how your heart changes over time. Think about your heart not as a simple pump, but as a high-precision engine that has been running for over 6 decades. In the beginning, the pipes, your arteries, were elastic. They were flexible, expanding and contracting with every single heartbeat to absorb the pressure and keep everything flowing smoothly. But as we move into our 60s, 70s, and beyond, a natural, silent shift occurs. We call it arterial stiffening. The structural proteins that make your arteries supple begin to change, and the lining of the vessels, the endothelium, starts to lose its ability to signal for the vessels to relax. Imagine trying to push water through a garden hose that has been sitting in the sun for years. It is no longer soft and pliable. It is rigid. When your heart pumps blood into those rigid, stiffened vessels, the pressure waves travel faster and hit harder. This is why many seniors find that their blood pressure creeps up even when they haven't changed their diet or added salt. It is not that your heart is failing. It is that the delivery system has become less forgiving. Now consider the role of chronic low-grade inflammation. This is often called inflammaging. It is a quiet, persistent fire that burns in the background of our vascular system. It damages the delicate inner lining of the arteries, making them even more prone to plaque buildup and further stiffness. This is where the story of coffee takes a turn that surprises many people. For years, we thought the goal was to keep the heart quiet, to avoid any stimulant that might make it work harder. But we are learning that the aging heart actually requires specific signals to maintain its flexibility. When you introduce high-quality coffee, not the instant stuff loaded with additives, but a clean, antioxidant-rich brew, you aren't just introducing a stimulant. You are delivering a potent flood of chlorogenic acids directly into the bloodstream. These compounds act as a systemic fire extinguisher for that low-grade inflammation we just talked about. They help the endothelium, the inner lining of your blood vessels, to regain some of that lost elasticity. The goal isn't to overstimulate the heart. The goal is to soften the delivery system so that when your heart does beat, the pressure is managed effectively. We need to address the elephant in the room: blood pressure. For most of you over 60, if your physician notices your numbers creeping up, the first thing they look at is your caffeine intake. And I understand the logic. It is taught in every medical textbook that caffeine is a vasoconstrictor. It narrows the blood vessels, which in turn forces your heart to push harder. If you are already dealing with hypertension, the idea of adding a stimulant seems like throwing gasoline on a fire. But here is the paradox that clinical data is now revealing. For habitual, moderate coffee drinkers, the blood pressure-raising effect of caffeine is often entirely neutralized by the other components in the coffee. It is what we call the caffeine offset. You see, caffeine is only one part of the coffee bean. When you consume a whole bean extract, you are getting a complex synergy. Research is showing that the chlorogenic acid I mentioned earlier actually helps facilitate the production of nitric oxide in the blood vessels. Nitric oxide is nature's most effective vasodilator. It tells your blood vessels to relax, to open up, and to let blood flow through without resistance. So, here is the nuance that changes everything. The caffeine creates a minor temporary constriction, but the polyphenol complex, the antioxidants, stimulates a sustained, healthy relaxation of the vessel walls. In many individuals, these two effects effectively balance each other out over the course of the day. However, this balance depends entirely on how your body processes the caffeine. This is where we see the split. Some people are what we call fast metabolizers of caffeine. Their liver has the enzymes to break it down quickly, meaning the stimulant effect is brief and the protective antioxidant effect dominates the outcome. Others are slow metabolizers. For them, the caffeine hangs around in the bloodstream for hours, extending that vasoconstrictive effect, making their heart work harder for longer. If you are a slow metabolizer, you might be the person who drinks a cup of coffee and feels your heart fluttering or your pressure spiking for the rest of the morning. That is your body telling you that your unique biology is reacting to the stimulant component, and you are not getting the benefit of the antioxidant offset. Recognizing this difference is the difference between coffee being a heart-healthy tool or a source of unnecessary stress. It is not about the coffee being bad. It is about your body's unique processing speed for the caffeine content within it. I want you to stop for a second and forget everything you think you know about caffeine sensitivity. Most people assume that if coffee makes them jittery, it's because they've had too much. But there is a hidden biological truth here that most doctors never discuss with their patients. It's written in your DNA. Specifically, it involves a gene called the CYP1A2 gene. This gene is the primary instruction manual for your liver on how to create the enzyme responsible for clearing caffeine from your system. Think of the CYP1A2 gene like a variable speed fan in your liver. If you have the fast variant of this gene, your liver clears caffeine at a rapid pace. For you, the stimulatory effect of a cup of coffee is short-lived, and the heart-protective antioxidants we've been discussing get to work immediately, providing all the benefits with almost none of the long-term strain. But if you have the slow variant, that fan is stuck on low. The caffeine lingers in your bloodstream for hours. This is the aha moment for so many seniors. If you've spent years feeling like coffee just isn't for you, it isn't because your heart is weak. It's because your liver is genetically programmed to hold on to that caffeine for much longer than the average person. This is why standard medical advice, which treats every patient as if they have the same metabolism, fails so many of you. It's not a one-size-fits-all situation. You aren't doing anything wrong by feeling sensitive to coffee. You are simply witnessing your own unique genetic blueprint in action, and knowing this changes how you handle your morning ritual forever. Now that we understand the genetic component, let's talk about a metric that cardiologists are increasingly using to determine true cardiac health: heart rate variability, or HRV. You have likely heard of your resting heart rate, the number of times your heart beats per minute while you are sitting still. But HRV is something much more sophisticated. It measures the variation in time between each individual heartbeat. It might sound counterintuitive, but a healthy heart does not beat like a metronome. It doesn't go tick-tock at perfectly even intervals. Instead, a healthy, resilient heart is constantly adjusting, speeding up and slowing down by milliseconds in response to every breath you take, every thought you have, and every slight change in your environment. A high HRV means your heart is flexible, adaptable, and highly responsive to the signals from your autonomic nervous system. It is a sign of a heart that is well-tuned and capable of handling stress. A low HRV, on the other hand, suggests that the heart is stuck in a rigid pattern, often dominated by the fight-or-flight response, which is a major red flag for long-term cardiovascular fatigue. So, how does coffee play into this? This is where the story gets really interesting. Because of those antioxidant polyphenols we discussed, the chlorogenic acids, moderate coffee consumption has been shown in observational studies to actually support better autonomic function. In essence, by reducing systemic inflammation and oxidative stress, coffee helps keep the nervous system in a rest and recover state rather than a constant state of fight or flight. When your body isn't fighting internal fires, your nervous system can regulate your heart more naturally. This is why many people find that, once they find their sweet spot for coffee consumption, the dosage that works with their unique metabolism, they don't feel jittery or anxious. Instead, they feel a calm, focused energy. Their heart isn't racing, it's just working efficiently. However, we have to be careful here. If you drink too much or if you drink it too late in the day, you force the nervous system into an overstimulated state. That pushes your HRV down. You lose that beautiful, healthy variability. You essentially turn your heart into a metronome. The key takeaway for you is this: coffee can be a tool to support your HRV, but only if it's treated with respect. It is a dial, not an on-off switch. When you find the right amount for your specific physiology, you are essentially helping your heart stay in that flexible, resilient zone that defines true cardiovascular vitality. We don't have to guess about these mechanisms anymore. Just this year, a major meta-analysis published in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology synthesized data from over 20 large-scale longitudinal studies involving nearly 500,000 participants. The researchers wanted to settle the long-standing debate: does coffee consumption truly impact the risk of cardiovascular events like heart failure or arrhythmias in older adults? The results were statistically significant and, for many, quite surprising. The study found that individuals who consumed between 2 and 3 cups of coffee per day, specifically black coffee, without added sugars or heavy creams, showed a 15% lower risk of developing heart failure compared to non-coffee drinkers. But the most revealing part of the research wasn't just the 2 to 3 cup number. It was the mechanism the researchers identified as the primary driver of this protection. They observed a consistent inverse relationship between coffee intake and markers of systemic inflammation. Specifically, habitual coffee drinkers had lower levels of C-reactive protein, a primary indicator of arterial inflammation, compared to those who avoided coffee entirely. This confirms what we've been piecing together. The protective effect of coffee isn't about giving the heart a boost. It's about the consistent, daily delivery of plant-based antioxidants that mitigate the chronic inflammation that stiffens our arteries as we age. The researchers also looked specifically at the concern of atrial fibrillation, the irregular heart rhythm that many seniors worry about. They found that for the vast majority of people, moderate coffee consumption did not trigger arrhythmias. In fact, in some groups, it was associated with a stabilization of heart rhythm. There was, however, one critical caveat. The protective benefits completely disappeared, and in some cases reversed into a higher risk profile in individuals who consumed coffee with high amounts of added sugars, artificial sweeteners, or excessive saturated fats. The research is clear. Coffee itself appears to be a cardiovascular ally, but we have a tendency to ruin it with the ingredients we add. When we strip away the sugary add-ins, we are left with a biologically potent tool that, at the right dosage, supports the very heart structures it was once blamed for damaging. So, how do you take this science and put it into practice? If you want to harness these protective effects without the common drawbacks, you need a protocol. This is what I call the heart-safe coffee method. It is designed to maximize the antioxidant delivery while respecting your body's unique caffeine processing capacity. First, your preparation matters. We know that coffee oils, specifically diterpenes like cafestol and kawil, can raise cholesterol levels if they aren't filtered out. If your lipids are a concern, use a paper filter for every brew. The paper effectively traps these oils while allowing the heart-healthy polyphenols to pass through. This is the simplest way to get the benefit without the lipid risk. Second, timing is everything. Because of how your body clears caffeine, I recommend you consume your coffee within a specific window, between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. Why? This aligns with your body's natural cortisol curve. Your cortisol levels are already peaking when you first wake up. Adding caffeine on top of that early morning peak can lead to an unnecessary spike in heart rate and blood pressure. By waiting until mid-morning, you avoid that additive stress, allowing your heart to start the day in a calm, balanced state. Third, look at your delivery vehicle. We discussed how sugars and creams can negate the protective effects. If you find black coffee too harsh, try adding a small amount of cinnamon or cardamom. These spices are not just for flavor. They are potent antioxidants in their own right and further support the anti-inflammatory goals we've been discussing. Finally, start with a half-dose strategy for the first 2 weeks. If you've been avoiding coffee, don't jump to 3 cups a day. Start with 1 cup of a high-quality medium roast bean. Monitor how you feel. Do you feel focused or do you feel frantic? If you feel calm, you have found your baseline. If you feel wired, that's your signal that your unique metabolism requires a smaller daily dose. Listen to your body, not just the general guidelines. Consistency beats intensity every single time. We have covered a lot of ground today, from the rigid reality of arterial aging to the potential for coffee to act as a cardiovascular ally. Remember, the goal of all this is not just to survive, but to maintain the vibrancy and independence that you have spent a lifetime building. Your heart is a resilient, remarkable engine, but it thrives on the right signals. By shifting how you view your morning cup, moving away from a stimulant mindset and toward a polyphenol delivery strategy, you are taking one more step toward supporting your long-term health. If you have found this information valuable, please take a moment right now to hit the subscribe button. I read every single comment on this channel, and the subscribers are the ones who get this research the moment it is published, ensuring you never miss a beat when it comes to your health. Before you go, drop a comment below and tell me, what is your biggest question about your heart health after 60? I read everyone, and your experiences are the direct inspiration for the research I choose to cover in future videos. Take care of your body today. It is the only one you have. I will see you in the next video.